Hi, everybody. Welcome to my talk with Ti. Hi, Ti. Thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, no worries. It's actually T. It's okay. T. Yeah, no worries. It's pretty early.
Absolutely. Well, we haven't actually managed to meet, so I mean, this is quite nice that we get to chat and to sort of run through things. I understand that where you are, it's morning, so good morning. Here it's
Thank you.
the afternoon, nearly. Well, for the Spanish,
Yeah.
it's kind of like early afternoon. I don't know if you listen to a podcast by Spencer Bailey and Andrew Zuckerman at all.
Mm-mm.
It's something that I've got quite hooked to in these strange times. And whenever they start off their talks with different people, and you know they really are a nice conversation that flows, but with a lot of interesting things being said. They always start off with something that I'd like to start off with you, and I think it's really appropriate for the times that we're in at the moment, which is what's on your mind right now. A small question.
No, totally. Very light and easy. This is what I think about every morning. No, right now, I mean, yeah, it's a crazy time. And I think as an entrepreneur and as a designer, both with a commitment to my company and also my community, I'm thinking about ways to, be of help. So as a company, I think we're trying to navigate this time right now, and also to my community of designers, where I think it's a very scary time, especially for young designers right now. So
Absolutely, because you're at the moment you're based in San Francisco, but I mean, is your family in another part of the States? I mean, what are the plans for Thanksgiving? It's such a weird time of the year, isn't it?
yeah, this is probably the first year in a while that I did not go back to my hometown, which is Atlanta, Georgia. Georgia is kind of a hot state at the moment, literally and also just politically. But it is a time where for the best, we think it's just much safer. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we'll be doing Zoom calls, just like this over Thanksgiving, over meals.
Exactly. I mean, I think it could actually be even better because you get to choose what you'd like to eat, where you'd like to sit, what time you start, what time you finish.
Very, very good points. Yes.
So anyway, we're actually here, I think, to talk a little bit about design. So you're an industrial designer, but you're also an entrepreneur. So how did this happen? I mean, you studied industrial design, and then how did you end up being the director of a company that produces such wonderful things that are so needed for women all over the world?
Yeah. Like you said, I'm kind of classically trained industrial designer. So my background, my undergrad was in industrial design, and with a focus on user-centered research. So that's where I think for me as industrial design, my foundation was always with an eye towards solving problems. So that was my foundation, and then I worked for several years in the corporate world, and I found that surprisingly, I was often the only female industrial designer in both of my first two jobs, which was really odd to me. But at the same time, it was something I kind of accepted because apparently, because they don't tell you this when you are in college, that as a female industrial designer, which is also very similar to many other professions, is that sometimes when you join the workforce, you will become the token female. You will become the only female in the room, in the meeting room, or on the manufacturing floor. So when I started to observe this, okay, I kind of got it. And then I started becoming more skeptical of products that were created for women, specifically for women. Because if you have these teams of men, okay, with no female representation, you're omitting 50% of the population in their perspective. So it's very unlikely that you're going to end up with a product that is most optimized for them, for women. So after I learned that, I kind of took it upon myself to, as an industrial designer, I was only interested in solving problems that were unique to women. So that's kind of what got me on my journey. And so I started my first company after RCA at 28 years old. So I'm 40 now. So it's been a while.
And that was something you started in the UK, because you started at the Royal College in London. And what did you take away from the RCA? Because I mean, it's a special place to study, isn't it? I mean, it has its good parts, but it's quite unique.
Yeah. Like any school, it has its good and bad parts. I think what was most, I think, formative for me is that I was an industrial designer who came from the States. And I think in the States, in the US, there's a certain way of practicing industrial design that it's almost like they are almost grooming you for the corporate world, whether it's in-house or it's at a consultancy. And after practicing, I was just curious about what else is there to design. And so for me, I wanted to be in a place where I've never lived, in London, and be exposed to design on a more global scale. And at RCA, because of so many different types of people who were my peers that came from all over the world, and they weren't industrial designers, actually, for the most part. They were, they could be artists, they could be photographers, furniture designers. And I think because of all that, you're in this like pot with everyone with different points of view. What was most formative was that it shaped my conceptual thinking in a way that I didn't have conceptual thinking before, which was really interesting because, like I said, in the US, I feel like it was very focused on grooming you to be a good employee. And it didn't really encourage kind of what was going on, which I thought was so much more exciting in London and many parts of Europe, where designers could actually think for themselves. And I think that was a very new idea to me.
So you kind of went into the college thinking you were going to be a type of designer that would kind of comply, and you emerged and became an entrepreneur immediately afterwards, or how did that happen?
I came in, actually, funny story about this, and I think this is a learning, I think, for a lot of, I think, female designers, especially industrial design, is that I came in RCA. I told my professor at the time, or the head tutor at the time, because after you enter the first week or two, you're supposed to meet with your tutor and discuss what you would like to focus on for the next 2 years, understandably. And I immediately told them that I'm very interested in designing products for women. And I was so excited about that. And then he looked at me and replied, if that's what you want to focus on, I'm going to have to ask you to leave, because we don't have, we only have one full-time female tutor and then another woman who's a half-time. So I don't think, this would be the place for you. And I was just so taken aback, because it was just like, I already taken out a student loan, I already moved to London, and suddenly you're telling me I cannot do what what I wanted to do. Now, so here's the thing. I'm someone who, when I look back at what had happened, to think of it as more, everything happens for a reason, And so I did what anyone else would do to try to graduate out of RCA, which is to design a chair. I say it in the most flippant, but yet I think in a way that it was crucial, actually, for me to design that chair at that point in time. Also, I think, is that I had never designed furniture before, prior to that. And designing furniture, in a way, opened up my eyes to the world of aesthetics that I actually was not a priority for me. There's something about aesthetics, I think, in the state. I think, obviously I'm saying this sweepingly. I'm going to get a lot of hate mails from professors from the States, but the way that I think aesthetics is just not focused on. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so I think for me, as a tool, it was something I was lacking in my toolkit, and being able to design furniture, because it is so simple, it really challenges you to think about what it is that you want to change and what it is that makes it you. And I think all of that helped me to form my aesthetic thinking. And so anyway, I graduated in 2007. I honestly was a bit lost. I was a bit lost because I had gone in wanting to design, and then I came out, I'm like, oh, maybe I'm a furniture designer. So I did actually dabble in furniture for a little bit, which is actually, really great because I was hired to go to China to help with the consultancy, and I did a series of furniture for the Cologne show. And I think after that, I realized it just wasn't what I wanted to do. Ultimately, there was still this void that I felt like I was not, I wasn't focusing on. And so this was in 2008. So the big recession, across the global economy.
Great time to set up a business. The best time, isn't it? It doesn't
Yeah, I think people who have not started business may think you're joking, but it actually is the best time to start a business. I mean, there's been, if you look at history, the American, industrial revolution, I mean, there's so many companies were set up at that Great Recession at that time that was so pivotal to, how we, operate in the world now. But so in 2008, after I had done my stint with furniture, I kind of looked around and I was like, well, I need to continue to support myself. And I was working as a freelance consultant, and, jobs weren't that particularly interesting. And I was like, wow, this is, it was a really hard time for everybody. And I decided that at that point, I had a fork in the road. I could continue to apply for jobs that I was not interested in, and then just be paid and, make a paycheck, which there's nothing wrong with that. Or I could try to do something that, I don't know, that has always been on the back of my mind, which is designing products for women, and then get paid nothing, for it, because I luckily had a little bit of cushion, a little bit of saved up, so that I was able to kind of sustain myself for a little bit. So that's when I decided to look around and see what products for women I wanted to focus on. And I was living in Boston, and I walked into a sex toy shop, and like many women, I think it wasn't my first time at the sex toy shop, but for many women, when they think about sex toys, it was all those crazy alien phallic looking things that they're used to. And I was just like, whoa, like this is not really for me. And then I did more research and I realized, no, those are kind of what's predominantly that's out there. So that's kind of when gave me the idea to give this a go.
That's interesting. In 2004, I actually set up a sex shop online.
Amazing. Yeah. You're ahead of the time.
Well, it was sort of just beginning then in Spain, and set it up with two partners, and we had such fun. It was absolutely hilarious. But my two partners were male, and I had exactly the same situation where their feelings towards sex was just so different. I mean, it was just like, it wasn't like 10 miles away, it was like 1,000 miles away. And at some stage I sort of said, guys, we have to do something for women as well. They are buyers. And I designed a range of jewelry with a very good friend who's a jewelry maker, Karen Hallam. And we produced a whole series of things that sold really well. And I mean, that's what I really love about your projects. Is that there's a subtlety and a sensuality and a discreetness that you just don't get in those enormous dildos or bunnies and I mean, when we were doing the buying, it was a nightmare. I mean, it was so difficult to find something nicely designed. I mean, the Pebble had just come out, so there was a vibrator that was sort of, beginning to change things. But this idea that women can be sexual and can kind of show it, but not in your face. I mean, how do you actually manage to get that as a product out onto the market? Because I mean, one thing is what you like to wear yourself or your friends, but I mean, you guys, I mean, you're selling all over the world. I mean,
right. Yeah. So, so in 2008, when I started my company Incognito, it was jewelry meets sex toys. And then that was completely, I bootstrapped it with whatever savings, whatever I could scrounge up. And my family supported me, and I got prototypes made, and I did manage to launch the company. And then 2 years into that, I actually sold that company into my now company, which I am co-founder of, CRAVE. It was like going from one startup to another startup. It was very tiring. And so with CRAVE, I've been, co-founder for 10 years now, almost 10 years now. And so like you, I felt very much that the products that I was seeing out there was very much conceived and ideated from a male gaze, because you saw it in the packaging, you saw it in the products, and you think about, what do men think women want? Of course, is their, penis, and 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 it, and literally, it's like, it's not. I'm not saying it doesn't feel good, but for women, it's about clitoral stimulation, which, as we all know now, which is like, kind of where it's at. And so many products were really conceived from the male point of view. And even that, they kind of missed the spot, I thought, is that it's about external, clitoral stimulation. And it's also a combination of both, so it's not saying one way is better than the other, but it was just I think the market was sorely lacking in great external vibrators that spoke to women in a way that was respectful, that was discreet, quiet. I mean, these items that I'm saying seem so obvious, but it's not obvious by what we've seen of the products that are out there, because it doesn't seem like those things were taken into account, because it doesn't seem like they ever actually asked a woman, So
how did this happen? I mean, how can it be the case that I mean, adult toys have been around, well, obviously forever, but I mean, they've been sold in shops and online for many years, but we still lack a good selection. I mean, you really have to search hard to find something.
Particularly, I think, internationally. And I mean, I could go into the history of this, but it would be the whole talk. It would be the whole conversation if I went into the depth. But, ultimately, like many things, it was conceived in a way that really did not embrace the core user. Okay. And I think, and it came from a place that was not about respecting, who was ultimately using this. And so, I mean, it is what it is, but, we live in a patriarchal society that, we are all waking up every day to fight. Like, oh, I'm tired. I'm tired. But it's gotten to where it is now. And I think with COVID, but also in the last 5 years, there has been more women that are leading the charge, because they've just like, they're calling bullshit on this. It's like in so many other areas of our lives, women are standing up and calling things out and also making changes. And I think in this particular industry, it's very similar. So, I've been doing this for like 12 years. You go back to 2008. But in the last 5 years, at least, we've been seeing more female-led or brands that are more female-centric, which is great because it's helping to elevate the tide.
Absolutely. So what was the first product that you designed and launched with CRAVE? And is it still successful? Is it still being sold and produced?
Actually. So we launched the world's first crowdfunded vibrator in 2011. Okay, so it's actually called the Duet. The Duet is a 2-motor vibrator. Actually, I think I have it here. Here we go. So this is called a Duet. It has a 2-motor vibrator right here, and it's basically designed to surround the clitoris. Okay, so it's an external vibe. It's actually, you can see it's also very, very small, very slim. It's made out of metal and silicone, and it has this USB thing because, it's just easy to charge, So, but this product, crowdfunding has been all the rage, and especially it was at its peak heydays back in the early 2010. And so, that was the world's first crowdfunded vibrator. And to this day, we still sell this product, and we actually evolved it so that we now have a version called Duet Pro that is actually programmable. Because, we heard from women that, some women are like, I don't want 36 vibration patterns on my vibe. I just want something simple, and I know what I like. And so this way they can plug it in, and then they can change all the different settings to exactly what they want, and then call it a day. So yes, it's still in production.
Fantastic. And recent projects and products that are being launched, what kind of things are you working on?
This so like when I said that this has evolved to the programmable vibe, so we actually just launched that this year. during COVID times. This was launched in, I believe, in August, and yeah, it's crazy. I mean, because of what's the pandemic, there are things that we wanted to launch, but just didn't make any sense to launch, and so we kind of had to readjust and think about how, as a company, can we support people who are now stuck at home. And so we decided to launch the programmable Vibe because it's designed so that you can, since you're already at home, you can spend a little more time, just kind of focus on your own pleasure. So yeah, that is the most recent launch, the programmable one. Yeah, but since then, since 2011, I mean, we have about 8 different products in our line, including some, the wearable. I think the necklace, which is I think the one that people are probably most known for. It's a vibrator necklace. And yeah, so that's still, going well.
Right. And how does the company function? I mean, how do you get to be a designer and the director at the same time? I mean, do you sort of divide your time, or, I mean, is it a big team? Is it a tight team? I mean, these kind of things as young designers who might be listening. I mean, what's the secret to the success?
I would say we are, as a whole, I think we present much larger than we are. We're still a small team, even though we've been doing this for a while. But the team consists of people who care about products, how it's made, and we care about our user. We care about women. And so I think at the core that centers the company is that, we are women-centric, we are female-centric. And all the employees, we're all kind of mission aligned in that, in that we're here to support. We think pleasure is hugely important part of one's existence. And so I think that's at the core. We have a team that we all believe in the same mission. And then when it comes to skill set, is that we are all product people. That means we're engineers, electrical engineers, mechanical engineers. We also understand manufacturing very well. So we're able to bring very high quality products to market versus some companies, they are more about marketing. This is just a cool, fun thing, but they don't actually do the R&D and the real product development in-house. Like, we have a microfactory in our downtown facility in San Francisco where we have lots of machines, CNC, when we make all of our initial prototypes, because we care deeply about how something is put together so that we can bring a very high quality product to market. So it gives you a little glimpse of how we work.
Yeah. And then obviously is the production all in the States, or is that production international as well?
We have a hybrid system. So we have some products that are fully assembled in downtown San Francisco, and then we have some products that are fully made in China. So it's like kind of best and the worst of both worlds. So you get benefits, and you also have obviously the disadvantages of both. But we found that has really worked for us.
Right. Because I mean, you're selling literally all over the world. I mean, that's the beauty of internet, I guess, the access, the reach that you can give people. Have you been surprised by any sales or contacts from companies where you kind of think, God, I never thought that would be of interest there? Or
yeah, we get a lot from countries that don't allow vibrators. There are actually some companies that prohibit the import of vibes. Thailand actually being one of them, surprisingly. I think most people don't realize that. And some other Middle Eastern countries. We definitely get interest from all over the world. But we're really mainly focused on the U.S. Just because at the moment we're still, I mean, even though we've been doing this for almost 10 years, it's still, we're still trying to build our foundation in a way. So, but during COVID, business has been, I would say it's still good. Like we're all hanging in there like all other companies. It's not like a gold rush or anything like that. I think some people think like, oh my God, it's going to be like, no, like I think we're continuing to support our customer in the way that we best know how. But at the same time, there are people who used to be able to afford our products are no longer able to. And so, but yeah, everyone's, at home and there's more focus on self-care, which I think is one little tiny good thing about this pandemic is that it has forced us to be more thoughtful about wellness and self-care. It's not just about your, physical working out. It's not just about mental, but it's also about sexual, wellness. And so I think that has helped to expedite a little bit of that attitude to shift. So, yeah.
Right.
So we're hanging in there. Yeah, we're hanging in there. It's good. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's such strange times for everybody that to say you're hanging in there is a monumental thing. I mean, to be honest, I think there are so many companies that for such strange reasons are either doing incredibly well or incredibly badly. That this situation has kind of toppled everything that we thought we knew and we understood.
Yeah. I mean, particularly my heart goes out to so many, because, as part of being in a community, you see your local shop, the bagel shop or the coffee shop or, little boutiques that you used to, patron and they're all shut. And it's just devastating when you see that, because that street that you used to love walking down, with a cup of coffee in hand, and you no longer can just do that, and it's just really devastating. And how, so many small businesses are often hanging by a thread, and we don't realize it until now, when you don't have a full paycheck, and how big of an impact it can have on a business.
Yeah. I also feel for the younger generation, because I mean, this is such an awful time to be graduating. I mean, what a summer.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. To not have your graduation, to not be able to celebrate with your friends. You've worked so hard. And also the students that are now going into uni, that many of them are doing this from home. They don't get that experience of being able to be in a classroom and being able to, hey, like just shoot the shit with their friends. And that's really, really hard. And so this is one of the reasons why I've made myself, I feel like, more available on my social media. Just because I think as people in the design industry, we have they look to us, the things that we do, the things that we say. And I understand where they were, because when I started my business in 2008, that was like, really shit time. It was hard to get jobs. I couldn't get interviews. And so for me, I've made myself more available online just to talk to them, just to share my experiences and be of help. So I think, my heart definitely goes out to them.
Mm-hmm. And I was wondering, how do you deal with testing the products? Because that was obviously something that bumped me up. That was always the first question that everybody was dying to sort of delve into. And I remember we were producing some cot rings, and we were sort of showing the sizes, and all the guys were going, oh, way too small, mine's 6 times bigger, sort of thing.
Oh my God, guys, you're so hilarious.
I mean, I presume if you're producing for women, it's a slightly different conversation. But how do you do that? How do you get users?
Well, the craziest thing, that we actually talk to women. I know. Isn't that wild? Like, we actually talk to women, like lots of them, of all different ages. I know. They're so hard to find, right? All right. No, I'm just being a bit of a dick right now. But we, like I said, my foundation is designer, and the people who are part of our company, what we're doing is because we want to bring products that are meaningful and helpful to people. Okay. And so it's really important that if that is your goal, that you have to constantly talk to people. So I do this loop because for us, our process is to constantly talk to women at different points of the development stage. It's not like, oh, we have an idea, we make it, and then we send it out to get validation and be like, oh, okay, they seem like they like it. And then, okay, let's go to market. It doesn't work like that. It is so much more nuanced, and it's so much more iterative. Is that like, hey, we may have a really early idea. Let's make a good enough prototype and to get it out there to some people and see what they think. We have had many projects that die at that point just because it's like nobody liked it. That was a shit idea. Okay, that's cool. And then, or something like, oh, there's something here, but these things to be changed. And so we would evolve it, talk to them, and then they give us feedback, and then we evolve it again until we get to a point where like, okay, this is something here. And we basically, how do we find the product testers? So we actually have, people can just email us and say, hey, we want to be a product tester. Unfortunately, you guys, this is just for the US only. So I'm really, really sorry. So please, but if you happen to live in the US, okay, cool, hit us up. But they can basically sign up, and we have this long list of testers. And so whenever, throughout the year, we have products that we want to test, we send out an email, and whoever responds, and make sure that this is what they're interested in, and then we sign them on, and then we send them samples, and they test, and we do interviews, and then we ask them online questions. So this is how we user test. It's not rocket science, but at the same time, it's very different from other consumer products because it's not like a washer and dryer where you could see somebody load, the clothes into the washer and dryer. We can't watch them masturbate. That would be kind of odd, right? It'd be kind of creepy, really, totally. So this is we have to kind of design for an experience that we can't really see, but we got really good at asking questions and making sure we take our egos out of it so that it's not. We want the best product for people. Yeah.
Do you design for a particular woman in mind?
That's really funny because I know that's a very common way that I think companies design. Just like, we're designing for the 25-year-old, who's at her first job and her income is this, and, she's not likely to have kids, or, they have a very specific demographic. And I know that's kind of the persona that's often talked about when designing consumer products. The problem with what we do is that sex and pleasure doesn't just stop at any particular age. Like, there are women in their 70s or 60s that are friskier than ever. I don't know if it's the same in the US, but there's statistics that, in the US, senior homes, they have the highest rate of STDs. I know, it's a little TMI, but my point is that someone who is 18 years old, who is discovering, their own bodies, for the first time, could be very similar to someone in their 50s who just went through her first divorce and is now dating again and rediscovering herself, So it's not really a demographic, it's more of a psychographic about how you think and your attitude about pleasure. So, and that spans the whole, age range.
So you're kind of accompanying women throughout their sexual life. Sometimes you kind of feel a great responsibility because your products are a luxury and they're sensual and they're a treat, but they also have a lot of meaning and a lot of power behind them.
I think any industrial designer, anyone who's bringing products to life, I think they should feel this really heavy responsibility. And I do feel this responsibility because particular with industrial design is that you're not just making onesies and twosies, like arts and craft. This is not just an art piece. This is going to be mass produced in tens and hundreds of thousands, if not more. And that is a huge responsibility because if your product is shit, people are not going to buy it. And then now you've just made a bunch of shit for the landfill, that is just detrimental to our environment. So I think it's always a big responsibility. And so one of the core questions in the way we design products is that what is the reason why does this product have to exist? Actually, that is the question. Why does this product have to exist? And we really have a good debate and talk about, okay, why do we think this product is important? Because we're not a company that makes like, oh, it's a Me Too, or hey, you know, that's selling, you know, we got to jump. It's like, we're not like that. We really try to bring meaningful products that really have not existed before. And bring that design and rigor and good manufacturing to it. So yeah, that's kind of how we approach products.
Which kind of brings us back to the chair, because I mean, that's the big joke for designers, isn't it? How many chairs need to be designed in the world? You know, don't we have millions enough?
I know, you know, the thing is, okay, so this is also my interesting take on chairs, is that it's not that chairs aren't necessary, is that I think you have to be a special kind of person to like, if you want to design a chair because that is what every single soul in your body loves, like, yes, absolutely, you should do this chair, you know? But there's some people that just design chairs just because it's like, I don't, you know, it just doesn't have that same kind of rigor and that personal meaning to it. And I think that's just kind of where it's kind of, I think it's, you know, you should do what is your own truth. And if for someone, their truth is design a chair, yes, that's great. But yes, there is a lot of, I recognize that we don't really need another fancy ass chair that's, you know, completely out of touch as price point, you know, to people. But yeah, it's like each designer has to find their own truth, you know.
Yeah, location, isn't it? I mean, otherwise it's difficult. What I mean, this past year, I mean, I can imagine it's been quite a lot of changes for you on many levels. What kind of challenges have you experienced? I mean, not necessarily to do with work, but I don't know, simple things in life that have changed for you and surprised you. You talked a little bit about the importance of wellness, of this kind of inner peace, or this kind of spending time with yourself. What kind of things have kind of been jumping into your mind that maybe weren't there a year ago?
I've been reading more. I know this sounds so sad, but like, you know, in a busy life, you know, where, you know, you're commuting, you're doing this, and there's always something going on. The ability to just sit down and read a really good book wasn't there for me a year ago. And so this year I've actually been really delving more into philosophy, surprisingly. There's a great series that I absolutely adore. It is called The School of Life by Alain de Botton. And it's a really interesting, it's like philosophy meets psychology, where it's actually useful philosophy and not just like, you know, you know what I mean? I'm a very practical person. Right, exactly. I'm a very practical person. So for me to read something like that was really profound. So you know, reading for me, it has been a big one. Another one is like, you know, I like to get my hair done, you know, and that I can't. So I've actually had to train my partner, who's actually behind me right now, and he has taught. He's been doing my hair. So it's like little thing, and I've learned how to cut his hair. So, you know, I give him, you know, so I've learned how to do like a fade in the back, like yeah. So little things like that you realize, like, oh, you can actually make do with a lot less, you know. But still, I would much rather pay someone a few $100s to do my hair than to have my. It's just, I'm like, okay, I get it now. It's so worth it. I definitely would rather pay someone a few $100s to do this than to, like, you know.
Totally now.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's just adjusting. Yeah.
And plans for when all of this, I mean, the thing is, we don't know if it's what's going to happen, do we? I mean, it's really difficult to make plans, but I mean, what are you thinking for the next year? Any changes, any, I don't know.
You know, it's so hard because, like, I have some friends who, for example, I have a friend who wants to get married, you know, soon. They booked the court date. It's several weeks away. However, they don't really know if that's really going to happen because, you know, at any point, you know, they can just be like, no, we actually are not allowing people anymore to the courthouse. So it is so hard. So I'm not really thinking that far ahead. I definitely would like to still stay in business. But I'm really just trying to take it day by day, honestly. Yeah, just try to, be thoughtful about how I live day to day.
Sure. Yeah, I think that we're being taught patience on many levels, aren't we?
Yeah, forced. Yeah,
totally. And what else was that? I was going to ask you something which just completely gone from my mind. I know. I mean, a product designer in this field, is it a norm? Are there actually designers who put maybe on their LinkedIn that they design adult toys? I mean, I don't know what do you like to call it?
I mean, I think of it. Look, I'm an industrial designer. I just happen to be working on sex toys and vibrators for women right now, and because at the moment I think there may be one or two schools that actually has like some kind of sexual whatever, but for the most part, that's not the case. And I get sometimes people reach out to me and say, hey, I want to be a sex toy designer. What should I do? What do I do? And my answer has always been, become a good designer first. Like, because if you are not aware of sort of how products are brought to life and how to think about customers, these are the things that you need to have as your foundation before you decide to focus on one particular thing. So yeah, I just tell people just enjoy whatever job that you have right now and keep it in the back of your mind, but just make sure that you are a really good designer first before you decide to hone in on exactly what you want to do.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And you recommend going to a design school? That was a good experience for you? Or was it a better experience going to?
Yes, I mean, I think there is a place there for design education, for sure, because without design education and being exposed to the design process and the rigor of design thinking, then I think one would approach products as an inventor, and there's nothing wrong with invention. Inventing has been, what men have been doing for ages, and but I think we are now more sophisticated as a society, where we not only want things that just work well, we want something that works well and looks good, and suits our taste. And now we're at a place where we also want things to support us emotionally, and so I think the bar just keeps getting higher. And I think without the rigor of design process and understanding the complete picture, one can go in at it in a very naive way, and they may not always produce the best product.
Right. Do you teach?
I do not. I think I do rants on my social media and my Instagram. I mean, occasionally I do ask me anything, and I'll answer a lot of student questions or other designers' questions and things like that. So, but yeah, no, I don't teach. I have a whole company to run. It's so hard.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's a shame, because I think you'd be a very good teacher.
Oh, thank you. It's definitely something that I think I would like to do later on, for sure. Yeah.
So where are you most active on social media? So if people would like to reach out to you on
on my I'm probably most active on my Instagram, which is at designer TI, one word, designer TI. And then it's the same handle for Twitter, as well as my Facebook page. But I think Instagram is probably just the most accessible.
Okay. Yeah, I love Instagram. Yeah. I think it's just such a fab.
Well, we should connect then, for sure. And we can even maybe just have more chat. I really enjoyed chatting with you. Yeah,
no, definitely. I mean, we're all grounded. I'm in a village outside of Madrid, and I'm grounded. We're confined at the moment. This is our second week of confinement. I'm allowed to go out to teach and to go to the doctors, and I'm allowed to go to the supermarket and the pharmacist, and that's it. So,
oh my goodness, we're very similar. California just enacted almost like a lockdown where you cannot be out past a certain point, and just non-essential travels are, so it's the same. There's a crazy movie, by the way, that came out, I think about 10 years ago, called Contagion. Have you heard of it?
Yes, I have. Yes.
Okay. Me and my partner, we just saw it like a few weeks ago. It's crazy. It is like it predicted this pandemic. It is like so accurate. It is insane. So anyway, called Contagion. It may, it's quite good. I'm just like, how did they even know this? But yeah, but it came out like 10 years ago. It's wild. Yeah.
Yeah. No, we've been heading towards this. Just that we didn't want to see it. We didn't want to recognize it, and now we've somehow got to navigate it, I think.
Yeah. Bill Gates been talking about it for a while.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, look, it's been so nice to chat to you. I see you're enjoying your tea. I also have my tea. Mine's green. Yours?
Mine too. I have Hartney and Sons, and then I have this ginseng. I actually do this thing where I mix two together. Is that strange? Oh, I do ginseng, and then I do Darjeeling, or like I mix it up. Yeah, 2 tea bags. Like that's how I do it.
I might take you up on that. Although obviously, as a British person, I'm very pure with my teas.
I know how you guys are, but let me tell you, it's quite different, but it's a little expensive. It's a little costly because you have to put two bags. But,
Absolutely. No, then I can dry them in the cupboard and I'll use them again.
Oh my goodness.
Thank you ever so much.
This was so fun. Yeah.
It's very strange because it's in a very contained environment. So I feel like it's just you and I having a cup of tea together. But
I know. It's actually quite oddly intimate, except, the rest of the interweb, the whole world knows.
Totally. I thank you for your work and for the many more products and projects that you're going to launch. Please stay in this area. I think it's really important for us ladies, women, girls, to have things designed for us for once. So I really appreciate that.
And thank you for teaching and being in the academia, because that's one of the things about a lot of young designers. They've told me is that many reach out to me because they're like, I don't even have a female professor or tutor, and so thank you for being in the academic world and continuing to be present for them.
A pleasure. And also, we didn't talk about that you were jury on the bid on the Biennale. So you've seen the projects. How did that go? What kind of things did you see? I mean, for us in Spain, it's fascinating to suddenly see all these projects from South America.
Yeah.
A few years ago were sort of, they were okay, and now they're fantastic. I mean, they really are high quality. I mean, considering the restrictions they have.
Yeah, I think one of my biggest takeaway is that because this is my first time on the jury, so I don't know how the work works were like prior to this, but I felt this year in particular there is a conscious effort to be of help to society. I saw more work that was about social entrepreneurship, social change, social systems, social strategy. Like these things are so important. Okay. And I'm so glad that people are being so mindful of that instead of, like you said, like another chair or something like that, and however, there were some chairs. So I was like, oh, this is a brilliant chair, and so this is great. But the one, I think, critique that I really want to take away, because this is my thing also, because I think of myself as also a design activist, because what I do matter and it can influence people. And if you're a designer if you want to influence people and you want to create change, you have to also embrace aesthetics. The reason I say this is that there are so many good ideas, but they're so ugly. And the problem with that is that you're not going to be able to be persuasive or convince anyone to change their behavior if what you created for them is not interesting enough for them to use, So I really would challenge a lot of the designers that I saw, as a whole, that their heart is in the right place, their mind is in the right place, but then push the aesthetics so that it is a beautiful, seductive product that makes people want to alter their behavior, want to like bring that into their life, because you're not going to be able to have influence if people don't even want your product or be able to interact with it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Products have to be functional, but they can also be beautiful.
And even if something's for social change, like if you're designing a toilet or like whatever, beauty still matters because it is the thing that they see, and people have a very emotional and visceral reaction to what's in front of them. And if you're not going to sell someone and be like, well, this is going to be better for you because it's going to be like this. Well, if it's ugly, they're not going to use it, And so that is my biggest thing, is that, look, all those things are in the right place, but do not overlook the power of seduction and the power of beauty, of beautiful products.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, because quite often I see sort of shelters and things, and I think, my God, those poor people, they've been thrown out of their countries, or they've been shot at, and then they're given such a horrible product or a tent or whatever. Why couldn't they do it in a nicer color or a slightly nicer detail or whatever?
Right.
So I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. Have a really good day.
Yes, you too. Thank you so much. This is a great chat with you.
It was a pleasure for me.
Okay.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye-bye.